Here we have a brand new RX 6650 XT, and today I'm going to unbox it, test it and compare it. So let's have a look. Hey there nerds, and welcome back to another episode of Nelly's Nerd Cave. And today we've got an exciting piece of hardware to look at here. We're going to unbox and test this, and we're going to have a look. Before I even get to what this particular piece of hardware is, I'm going to talk about a previous video. So in a previous unboxing, I unboxed the RTX 3060, and many of you mentioned in the comments about another particular graphics card that has more, if not the same performance than this lowly 3060. And this was the mighty RX 6650 XT, an AMD powerhouse. So I thought I would purchase one, and here it is. But before I open up this bad boy, let's go back to the reasons why I exactly chose the RTX 3060 in the first place. And really, this was for one particular reason. The Steam hardware statistics that are done once a month or so say that this particular card, the RTX 3060, is the most popular that people generally are using. And also that 58% of users on Steam have reported that they are using a resolution of 1080p, with only around about 18 to 19% of those users reporting 1440p gaming. In the comments of that video was this wonderful RX 6650 XT from AMD, and you also mentioned 1440p gaming. So today we'll look at this card and its performance against the 3060 and see which one is best, if any. So what did I exactly go out and buy? Well, I went out and bought the XFX Swift 210, which is an RX 6650 XT graphics card, and with so many letters it's nearly a tongue twister. This mid-range powerhouse promises wonderful performance with 1080p gaming. It says 1080p on the front. We'll see what 1440p is like later. So let's dive in and see what it has to offer. First, let's take a look at the box. In its standard AMD red and black livery, we can see that this is the Swift RX 6650 XT. It comes in a wonderful eye-catching box. It has all the key specifications on the back and some of the other key things on the front, such as its PCIe Generation 4, it has 8 GB of GDDR6, and it's 1080p. So let's have a look and open this bad boy and see what we get inside the box. So as with all these boxes, they're nothing special when you open them. Plain black box. And as we open this, we end up with the Quick Start Guide, which is a series of QR codes. And these QR codes you can scan, and it will then take you to the website to be able to download either the installation drivers and the instruction manual to install it. Once we take this foam off the top, which is always the nice chunky foam, we have the card here secure in its plastic bag. And this is the RX 6650 XT. This card is fantastic. It looks really robust. It has a nice metal shroud with dual fans on the top. This then helps with cooling the card optimally. It has a stylish back plate with XFX on the back, and it is in aluminium, and it has a really nice look to it. And we'll do the obligatory peel. On the side we have the standard 8-pin connector for our PCIe, which means you'll need something reasonable for a power supply just to run this particular card, but nothing really extravagant, as this particular card only pulls around about 143 watts at max. The display outputs on here, we have 4 outputs, we have 3 display ports and 1 HDMI, giving you plenty of scope for using multiple monitors for multiple setups. Now let's get this installed in our test bench and see how it performs. Today's test bench is made up of an i5 9400F. I chose the F SKU because I thought this would be a good processor to use, with it not having dedicated graphics. This processor can then use all its cores and concentrate on processing only and just give us the gaming data we actually need. I will also be using 16 gigabytes of Corsair Vengeance DDR4 running at 3200 megahertz. The storage for this is going to be a Micron 512GB NVMe drive, and to cool all these things, my usual go-to cooler is the Thermalright Assassin King 120 SE CPU cooler. The motherboard I will be using is from MSI. This is the B360A Pro, and this is the Pro series of motherboards that they tend to use. So let's get this built and test our card. Alright, we have everything set up. It's time to boot up and install the latest drivers. And it's always important to install the latest drivers from the manufacturer themselves so that you can make sure that you have all the latest gadgets and gizmos that go with that particular card itself. In between these runs, when I change from the 6650 XT to the 3060, I will be rebooting into safe mode, running DDU to uninstall all the graphics drivers. It's not necessary to go that far, but to get consistent results, it's a simple process and it's worth doing to make sure that there's no incompatibilities or conflicting software on the computer itself to prevent these cards from working optimally. Now, let's put this card to the test. We're going to run a series of benchmarks, including 3 3D Mark benchmarks, as well as my favourite game, Doom Eternal. So starting with 3D Mark and the Swift RX 6650 XT, this particular card has some impressive scores, and we can see that on the graph here, where first of all, starting with the 3 different runs that I've used within 3D Mark, with first of all the resolution set to 1080p. I first ran Steel Nomad, and this came out with a score of 1755, followed by Speedway with 1563, and then Port Royal with 4634. When we compare this to the RTX 3060, we can see that all the settings are the same, and Steel Nomad gave us 1702, which isn't far behind the 6650. Speedway with 1899, which is a huge increase over the 6650. And then finally, Port Royal, which came out at 4519. This was a 15% decrease over the 6650 XT, but it's kind of within a margin of error. This particular card definitely holds its own against some of the higher end cards, and within Doom Eternal I had it set to 1080p and high settings, and with the 6650 we get some really good frame rates, averaging around about 120 to 135 frames per second. When we compare this to the 3060, we actually get frame rates of 137 to 143. Again, that's 13% difference over the 6650. So the 3060 slightly in front here. Now if we look at how these two cards perform with a resolution of 1440p, which again was one of the comments in a previous video, we can again see that the RX 6650 XT on Steel Nomad has a score of 1735. Within Speedway it comes out at 1542, and Port Royal as 4568. And again, if we look at the 3060 values, we had 1740 for Steel Nomad, 1967 for Speedway, and finally 4631 for Port Royal. So RTX 3060 doing a lot better at this resolution than the RX 6650 XT. But this is where it gets really interesting, because when we go into actual gameplay and we play Doom Eternal, which again was on high settings, we get some smooth gameplay with frame rates averaging around 105 to 115 frames per second on the 6650 XT. The RTX 3060 with the same settings had a frame rate of between 76 and 100 frames per second. So the 6650 had quite a good increase and a better average frame rate than the 3060. And even though the RTX RX 6650 XT performed slightly worse on the synthetics, in real gameplay it performed so much better at 1440p. So overall, the XFX Swift RX 6650 XT is an excellent choice for gamers looking to play 1080p reliably and 1440p. I wouldn't say on every game, but on some games quite reliably. It's very solidly built, it has some quality materials that it's used, and it's got a reasonable price point. This particular one was £208 at the time I bought this, but it took about 3 weeks to arrive to the UK because it was bought from Amazon US. If we compare this to the RTX 3060, this particular card is 67th on the Steam hardware survey. And I know that this survey is not concise because I can hear you all shouting at your screens, but with over 24 million users answering this survey, that is a large chunk of the hardware users out there, so there must be something in it. So which one is best? Again, the RX 6650 XT or the RTX 3060? This depends on your budget and your need. The price for both is quite average. You could have an 8 gig card of GDDR6, £208, £251-ish, or you can have 12 gigs of GDDR for £268. Personally, I would want slightly more RAM so to be able to run the settings slightly higher, but that's me. Your choice may be completely different. Well, that's it for today's unboxing and review, and if you're in the market for a new graphics card, the Swift RX 6650 XT should definitely be on your radar if you're looking to boost your performance from an older card. If you'd like to support me, you can follow the link below and buy me a coffee, and don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so that you can get all the updates for all my reviews and tech tips. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you the next time on Nelly's Nerd Cave. See you later.